Watching Eye on New Mexico today. Joining me today, we have Danisha Romero, the Service Project Coordinator at UNM for Project PeacePal, a unique program that's linking New Mexico students to students in other countries and inspiring young people to become the leaders of the next generation. We also have two other UNM students and members of Project PeacePal with us, Yousuf Kasim and Leah Lucero. Thank you both for being here. And they're going to talk a little more about UNM's unique involvement with Project PeacePal. The goal of Project PeacePal is to promote cultural understanding, appreciating our differences throughout the world, but also seeing the things that we have in common as humans. PeacePal also promotes education, and we thought that this was a good time to highlight this program with the recent kidnappings in Nigeria by a terror group that's opposed to Western education and the education of women in particular. So we'll talk a little more about that and what's going on with that in just a minute. But Danisha, I wanted to start with you. Project PeacePal, we've actually featured on this program in the past, and you know, if it sounds familiar, PeacePal, it's sort of a pen pal service and connection, connecting students here with students globally. Tell us a little more about that.
Well, PeacePal is an international peace through education organization, and what we do is connect youth in the United States to youth internationally. And the two vices that we have for doing that, which are our two programs, are service learning and the letter writing program, like we just talked about. And I like to think that PeacePal kind of came from pen pal, as you say, but it sets the tone for what students are writing each other about peace, not just what's your favorite color and what video games do you play. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is a program that starts with kids as young as elementary school and all through up until college age students here in New Mexico, communicating with students in those other countries. And I mean, it must be interesting to watch the letters change from the elementary students to the high school students. What are they talking about at that elementary level especially?
They're talking about their families, a lot about their families, a lot about their education, what's going on in school. It's really interesting seeing how young students, especially, I really like reading the younger elementary through like middle school, because they relate on a totally different level than how older people start to talk. Like we start to maybe conceptualize about different things or just make small talk, but young people, they're so genuine when they're speaking with each other, and through letter writing and the drawing all around the like borders of letters, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, that's absolutely great, and it's such an important thing to start, even with kids as young as elementary, to start helping them to focus on what's happening around the world. As of this taping, as we mentioned, the world has been calling on the Nigerian government to do more about the recent kidnappings of almost 300 girls by the terror group Boko Haram, which, as we mentioned, really is opposed to Western education and the education of women. Let's get the latest now from NBC's Ann Curry.
Inside Nigeria's northeast, plagued with Islamic militants, loved ones arrived at the school where the 300 girls were taken. On day 25 of the kidnapping, they couldn't hold back their anguish. Esther, the mother of a missing 15-year-old, is desperate.
They should go into my house, burn my house, break everything inside my house. If they give me my daughter, that will be better for me than taking my daughter. Even they take my life at that moment, I think I'm satisfied, more than when they take my daughter away.
The Islamic extremists called Boko Haram have recently stepped up their terror, putting 500,000 people on the run. A girl who barely escaped, her face obscured to protect her from being targeted, says, "They chased us, but we kept running." Devastated, people here are grateful to know the outside world is now responding. Secretary John Kerry today.
Our interagency team is hitting the ground in Nigeria now to do everything that we possibly can to return these girls to their families and their communities.
At the World Economic Forum underway in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, a bold prediction from the nation's president, who's been slammed for his government's slow response.
I believe that the kidnap of these girls will be the beginning of end of terror in Nigeria.
Bring back our girls! World outrage hasn't subsided. Today, people were still gathering to protest in Los Angeles and Denver. From Nigeria, the U.S. Foreign Aid Chief, Rajiv Shah.
Do you see this as a kind of watershed moment in any way? I do see this as a watershed moment. I think the world does need to recognize that there are girls all around the planet that are treated unfairly, that are prevented from seeking a better future.
But as real international help arrives, many fear it may be too late.
Reminds us that we take our education system and our lives here for granted in this country, the amount of peace and relative peace we have here in the United States. And obviously, as we mentioned, Project PeacePal is one of the groups working to promote this worldwide understanding and knowing what's going on in these other countries. Is that right, Danisha?
Yeah, what we try to promote is the understanding of our common humanity, that despite race, despite color, we're all the same. And we're all here to connect with other people and grow and educate each other and get better.
Yeah, absolutely. A beautiful hope for the world. Let's talk a little with Leah and Yousuf, who have really started to grow this UNM charter group of Project PeacePal. Leah, you actually started this with students from your discipline, which was the sort of pre-med group at UNM. Is that right?
Yes. I started volunteering with Project PeacePal just on my own when I was a freshman in college. And by the time the summer after my sophomore year came, that was the summer of 2012, we decided we wanted to take it up the next level and that it was time for UNM to have a student group. So I went back to the university and met up with friends like Yousuf and other pre-med friends that I had, and we got it started and went through the chartering and budget processes and recruited members. And it's really grown since then.
Yeah, absolutely. What is it that appeals to someone, do you think, a student, to join a group like this?
It's hard to say. Most of us hadn't had any international experience before, and for me it was just the opportunity to learn something new and to impact the lives of those that are a world away from me. Yeah. And it was just a completely new opportunity, unlike anything I had had. And I think that was similar with the students that joined up, because a lot of us pre-meds were very service oriented. And I think that was the most appealing aspect, is just service.
How about you, Yousuf? I'll ask you the same question. What motivated you to get involved?
Well, I was definitely interested in kind of helping out in the international community. You know, you read the news articles and things about all these horrible, horrible things that are happening around the world. And I just wanted to make a difference, you know. So I talked with Leah about the student group that I knew that she was setting up, and, you know, I thought that that was something that I really wanted to get involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you point out, you read the news about all these horrible things. You know, we pointed out this recent Nigeria story, and I imagine young people especially can tend to get very focused in their own lives, and college students, I mean, you guys have a lot going on. I should mention that Leah and Yousuf have basically just finished school, finished their finals, seniors at UNM and graduating, both going on to UNM Med School. So congrats to both of you for that huge accomplishment. But you can get so focused in your own path, your own lives. Do you find that it's hard for young people like yourself and for other young people to kind of be aware of what's going on in the world?
Yeah, I think that a lot of young people just kind of remain focused on their own lives, and they kind of almost in a way turn a blind eye to everything that's going on. But I think that it's really important for young people to have a voice in this, because, you know, we're the future generation. Like, we're going to be making a difference in the future, so it's important for everyone to be aware of what's going on and try and make an effort to help.
Absolutely, great way to say it. And you know, we saw in that story actually the social media campaign with the Nigeria story, Bring Back Our Girls. Social media has become a big part of well, young people's lives, obviously, and I imagine Project PeacePal is using that a lot now too. Mm-hmm.
We use Project PeacePal's Facebook page a lot to promote our events. We post letters, we post pictures from our events, our fundraisers, and we also like to keep people in the loop with what's going on inside of the office, like what new ideas we're thinking of for service projects. Yeah, those sorts of things.
And these are some ways that the whole community can get involved actually in Project PeacePal. Leah, I'll ask you again. I know we just missed a fundraiser that you guys held this year, but PeacePal is always doing events, fundraisers with different focuses each year. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So one consistent thing we do is we're very constantly tabling in the UNM Student Union building. So we take turns, and every single week we have someone there at a table and promoting our various causes and recruiting new members, raising money if we can. Just, you know, any way to spread our cause.
In fact, before the program today, we were talking about a service project that UNM's group was involved in with a rural mentorship in Uganda. Tell us a little bit about that.
So Rural Girl Mentorship Uganda is one of the programs that was partnered with PeacePal, and they're exchanging letters. And our student group wanted to commit to a certain organization last year, so we developed this big idea of having a 5K race to raise funds. And we really made our entire year focused on Rural Girl Mentorship Program, just so that we could raise funds for them and have connections. And you know, the 5K race was a success. We had a lot of people helping out as we planned it, and it went, you know, incredibly well. We raised over $1,300. And we gave it straight to the organization, and they were able to buy textbooks, medical supplies, things like that. And you know, they just sent us pictures of all the girls holding up their textbooks and smiling, and it was just, I think, the most powerful moment of this whole experience, and just very eye-opening for us. Just showed us, you know, we've made a difference, and that this has helped.
Absolutely. You know, as we mentioned the Nigeria story again, we see that lack of education and that the struggle and barrier to women, especially young women, being educated in other countries. Yousuf, your thoughts on that? Obviously, in this country, we take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that a lot of the problems arise when certain groups believe that women should not be educated. And education is the first step to empowerment. When the women in those countries are able to get an education, then they sort of have the resources that they need to become more empowered and, you know, make steps towards women's rights and things like that. But unfortunately, by blocking education, these extremist groups are also kind of blocking women's empowerment. So I think that it's really important that we kind of continue our efforts to improve education in those areas, just so we can kind of allow those women the opportunity to become more empowered.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll ask Danisha and Leah the same thing. I mean, as women yourselves, I mean, is it strange to you to see women in other countries dealing with such barriers?
I believe so, but then I also feel so blessed, like living in an urbanized and industrialized country, that you know, we're given this opportunity to get our education and grow and flourish. And in these other countries, and especially in more tribal societies, women, like you said, were not given as many opportunities to be empowered and to grow.
Yeah.
But I do believe that through this global perspective and global support from everyone around the world, we can turn the tide.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see what's happening with so many people getting involved with the Nigeria situation, that social media campaign. I think there is more awareness nowadays. Would you say, Leah?
It seems to me that there is, definitely. And I know social media is a big thing there, just because word is spreading easier. You know, students our age don't always watch the news, but they see these things on Facebook or just as ads on other websites, and I think it just increases awareness. And then also too, just attending a large university and having some students that are very involved in issues in the international world, I think that just also opens awareness as well.
Well, you guys have had a great opportunity to be exposed to that, and especially by taking on this Project PeacePal group as well. We're going to come right back after a break. We'll have more on Project PeacePal, how to get involved, how to donate, and more about these young people who will be our future leaders coming up. Thank you for staying with us on this special Saturday edition of Eye on New Mexico. We're talking about Project PeacePal, and joining me to talk about that, Danisha Romero, Yousuf Kasim, and Leah Lucero, all three UNM students. These two on the end here, seniors who have finished their finals, graduating, so congrats again to them, big accomplishment. And Danisha here's a sophomore, so she still has a couple more years to go. But they're really doing something great with this Project PeacePal, and UNM has a charter group branch from this, but this is a program that we've talked about on this show in the past that really tries to encourage an understanding of the world, global exposure, and embracing our similarities as well as our differences around the world, and helping unite students here in New Mexico with students in other countries through a pen pal and letter writing program that really has kids from elementary age all the way up to college age exchanging letters and communications with these students in other countries. So a great program to get involved in. We'll have some more information soon about how you can support what they're doing. I wanted to talk a little more with Leah and Yousuf, who, as I mentioned, are graduating seniors at UNM and going into UNM Med School. Both of you were part of the UNM's combined BA MD program, so going from your bachelor's degree right into a med school. And a big focus of that is encouraging students to work in rural communities in New Mexico after graduation. Is that right? You know, we talk so much in the news here in New Mexico about the lack of services in the rural areas of our state. You know, when we look at what's going on in other countries, sometimes we forget we have a lot of small communities in New Mexico here that are struggling with some of those same issues. Poverty, lack of services, lack of access to services. So tell us a little more about that, Yousuf. I'll start with you.
Yeah, so the UNM Combined BAMD program basically takes students from both rural and urban areas right out of high school to kind of enter this 8-year program where we get our bachelor's degree in 4 and then go to the medical school. And the goal of the program is really to get students who would be willing to stay in New Mexico and practice in New Mexico after they become licensed physicians. So a lot of the students who are from rural areas go back to their home communities. Some of them stay in Albuquerque. You know, they kind of spread out across the state. And it's kind of a great way to address the physician shortage that New Mexico is really struggling with.
Yeah. Leah, same thing. Are you planning on coming back to New Mexico to work, regardless of where you end up doing your residency?
Yes, I am, definitely. I'm from northern New Mexico, and in addition, I've just visited many parts of New Mexico, and I see the health disparities. They're everywhere, and there's so many different ones. And I think, you know, an increase in physicians is definitely one way to address such things, but another thing that the Combined BAMD program focuses on is really giving us a thorough training in just New Mexican health, public health. And we take a class nearly every semester, a health, medicine, human values course, just so that we can get the specific training. So we're all very aware of what's going on in New Mexico and, you know, social determinants of health and how are they best addressed. So I definitely want to implement those skills that they've given me in the future in New Mexico, and, you know, maybe continue to work with some international groups. I think there's always time to work with more than one.
Yeah, and you know, you can learn a lot, I think, from rural New Mexico to apply to these other areas where you mentioned, and again, we mentioned in the first half that Leah really kind of started with some of her fellow pre-med students, the UNM branch of Project PeacePal, and you mentioned that you guys may be looking for some opportunities to take your medical skills and teachings somewhere else in the world. Is that right?
Definitely. There are a few opportunities in med school to go abroad. I know the summer after your first year, you have the opportunity to go to Kenya and learn a little bit there about, I don't know too many specifics about it, but there's a few opportunities there as well that, you know, I'm definitely interested in. Although I want to come back to New Mexico, I definitely want to see as much of the world as possible, and I think a lot of us feel that way.
Yeah, Yousuf? Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of opportunities in medical school. I know students who've said they've gone to India, they've gone to South America, just lots of different places. And it's a good way to kind of open your eyes to sort of what's out there and then come back and maybe apply what you've learned to the rural communities in New Mexico.
Absolutely. Danisha is an international relations or studies major. I don't know exactly what you can tell me what it's called here at UNM, but so clearly you have an international focus in what you're studying.
Currently, my major is international studies and conflict, peace, and diplomacy. I just recently was thinking about double majoring in nutrition as well, but I'm not quite sure yet. Yeah. I'm a sophomore, so
you have a little time.
I have a little time. What I'm thinking of mainly doing is staying with the nonprofit sector and going internationally and working for different nonprofits. I would like to work in sustainability studies and like agricultural studies as well. I'm really interested in that.
Well, yeah, you mentioned a lot there, but you're right. I mean, you know, even with nutrition, as you mentioned, there's so much that the rest of the world doesn't have that we have, that I mean, we take for granted our food, agriculture, you mentioned it, so much here in this country, and I imagine you want to get out there and travel and see what's happening in other countries. Is that right?
And I also want to learn more about the indigenous plants that grow in other countries, and my goal is to help educate people as to how to start using natural things as medicine, natural foods as medicine, rather than pharmaceuticals or those sorts of things that we can't heavily rely on with the body. And I feel like that's sort of my channel for peace.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, getting us back to Project PeacePal, of course, I talked to Leah and Yousuf about getting that UNM charter, but what brought you on first with Project PeacePal in general?
Well, I was a freshman at UNM, freshman in 2012, and I saw a posting in the Communication and Journalism building for a communications intern at PeacePal, and Peace caught my eye, and so I inquired with Sarah Wilkinson, our director, and right when I started at the organization, I kind of just immersed myself into it. Our mission was amazing, to connect people around the world, promote our common humanity, and also after my work as being in a communications intern, I decided that I wanted to start volunteering at PeacePal, volunteering my time, and then I got hired on. So I've kind of just grown with the organization, and now I plan youth service projects locally for youth in Albuquerque.
Very cool. Well, I know obviously all three of you are very busy, not only with school, but with organizing the events through Project PeacePal, the fundraisers, as you mentioned, all of that. But have any of you written letters as well to students in the other countries?
I have. Yeah. Actually, I have a pen pal in Tajikistan. There are 8 of us from the UNM Student Group, and this is a new project that we've been doing this year.
Wow. And tell us about that. What are you hearing from your pen pal there?
It's incredibly eye-opening, because I sent the first letter, and I, talked a bit about my education, my family, just things I'm interested in, and I heard back from him. And he said, that's amazing that you get to go to college. I wish I could, but my family doesn't have the money to do so. So he spends most of his time driving taxis just to raise money for his family, and it's just a completely different world over there.
And how old is this person again?
He is 24, I believe.
24, okay.
Yes. So about college age, all of our pen pals. And it was just incredibly eye-opening. I've always known that we're so lucky to have these educational opportunities, but it was just really reinforced it and just made me so grateful for the opportunities I've been given. And it's really motivated me to do my best and do more, just because I have an opportunity that not everyone in this world is lucky enough to have. So
incredible.
It's been great.
Yeah. Either of you get a chance to write yet?
Not yet.
Not yet,
No,
yeah.
not yet.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it would be, as we mentioned, elementary through college age students are organizing through Project PeacePal to write these letters. I wish I could write a letter, but I'm sure there are other ways to get involved. Myself, I could be a donor. Tell us, Danisha, a little more about how the general public watching today could help out with Project PeacePal.
Well, we have many opportunities to donate. We have an online merchandise store, PeacePal t-shirts and handmade bracelets. We also have a space where you can just make donations. You could sign up to our monthly newsletter, the PeacePal Career Dev newsletter, which gives us all of our updates for what PeacePal is doing, community events around international organizations, especially other organizations we're affiliated with. Other ways to donate.
You mentioned Whole Foods is doing something for you guys this month, right?
Yes, the whole month of May, Whole Foods on Academy in Wyoming has agreed to allow us to be the supported charity of the month.
Nice.
So we will have donation boxes at the checkouts, and they're there already, so anyone can donate now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, such a great student group, and as we mentioned, part of Project PeacePal is beyond just the letter writing campaign, is training the next generation of leaders, which I have no doubt all three of these people here will be. So I'll kind of end it on that, kind of taking us from here. What is your next step, Leah? I'll start with you as you graduate from UNM now and go out into med school and the world.
Yeah, well, like I said, I want to continue working with my community in New Mexico, but I also want to continue my awareness. I plan to be involved with PeacePal for as long as I possibly can. Obviously, my role will have to be smaller next year just because I'll be pretty busy in med school, but I just think it's so important for young people to just have that awareness, not only of their home communities, but also their national and international communities. I just think there's an interdependency on every community in this world. And I just never want to stop learning about that, and I never want to stop spreading this enthusiasm to others. And I just think it's so important that we all learn about these issues.
Great. Yousuf?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Leah. We're actually pretty close with a lot of the younger students who are kind of be taking the reins next year. So we definitely want to maintain our involvement with the group, just kind of keep up with the projects, because it's really important that people are aware of what's happening, and even more than just being aware is actually contributing, because awareness is just the first step. And because Leah and I have the experience now, we want to make sure that future directions for the group kind of stay on course and make sure that we can continue empowering youth in other countries.
Excellent. It'll make our whole world a better place, like you said. And Danisha, finally, you'll continue on at UNM now with Project PeacePal.
I plan to continue at UNM with Project PeacePal, hopefully start organizing, maybe step up, take a bigger role in the UNM group. And I'm also working in the PeacePal office, so I'm a good connection in between the UNM chartered group as well as the office, sort of as a liaison. So nice. I want to continue that as well.
Yeah, well, it's great to get the UNM students involved because you guys have so much passion, as we've seen. And so thank you, all three of you, Leah, Yousuf, and Danisha, for being here to talk about this. PeacePal.org is their website, and of course, you can always contact us here at the station if you want to know more about anything you see on this program. We'll see you next week for another Eye on New Mexico.